The massive alien ships appeared without warning. One moment, the space beyond Neptune was empty. The next, 12 enormous vessels materialized like dark stars against the void. Each ship was larger than anything humans had ever built, their surfaces covered in strange patterns that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. At the Global Defense Command Center in Geneva, General Robert Mills stared at the main screen with a mix of awe and concern. Warning signals flashed across multiple displays as space monitoring stations worldwide tracked the vessel's movements. The ships were arranged in a perfect geometric pattern that could only be artificial. "All stations reporting in, sir," said Lieutenant Amy White, her fingers moving rapidly across her control panel. "The unknown vessels are maintaining their position, but our sensors detect energy buildups consistent with weapon systems." The general took a deep breath. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades, but now that it was here, the weight of responsibility felt overwhelming. Alert all Earth Defense Force ships to maintain their current positions. No aggressive moves. In orbit above Earth, Captain Tom Brown watched from the bridge of the EDF flagship Unity as his crew worked with practiced efficiency. The ship's advanced sensors provided detailed scans of the alien vessels. Their technology was clearly more advanced, their weapons capable of destroying Earth's entire defense fleet in minutes. The alien ships began to move. With precise coordination, they spread out into an attack formation that surrounded Earth. Traditional military doctrine suggested only two options: surrender or fight. The general's next words, however, would change the course of human history. "Open all communication channels," he ordered. "Standard greeting package on all frequencies. Let's talk to them first." The alien vessels froze in their tracks. For several long minutes, nothing happened. Then, a signal came through, strange, complex, and clearly artificial. The computer systems worked frantically to decode it. "Sir," Lieutenant White called out, "we're receiving a response. Their language patterns they're expressing confusion." The translation computers finally decoded the alien message. "You have been surrounded. Your defensive capabilities are insufficient. Why do you not prepare for combat?" General Mills smiled slightly. "Send them our reply. We see no reason for combat when we haven't even introduced ourselves. We are the people of Earth, and we would like to talk." The response threw the aliens into disarray. Their ships shifted positions uncertainly, breaking their perfect formation for the first time. Another message came through. "This is not the proper protocol for first contact. Combat determines strength. Strength determines worth." "Then let us show you a different kind of strength," the general replied. "One that comes from choosing not to fight when you have the option." In orbit, Captain Brown received new orders. The Unity and its escort ships powered down their weapon systems completely, a move that went against every military instinct. The alien vessel's energy readings spiked briefly, then fluctuated in what the sensors interpreted as confusion. The next alien transmission was different, coming from a new source among their fleet. "I am first speaker of the collective. Your response is unprecedented. Explain." "First speaker," General Mills responded. "Humanity has learned through long and painful experience that the strongest alliances often begin with choosing peace over war. We propose a meeting, face to face, to learn about each other. After all, the universe is vast enough for both our peoples to thrive." The alien ships remained motionless for what felt like hours but was only minutes. Finally, they began to move again, not to attack, but to pull back into a less threatening formation. "Your proposal is interesting," the first speaker transmitted. "We have never encountered a species that did not either attack or surrender. Perhaps there is something to learn here." As the tension began to ease, General Mills looked around at his staff. They had just changed the rules of first contact, not through superior firepower or technology, but through the simple yet powerful act of choosing dialogue over conflict. "Well," he said quietly, "this should be an interesting conversation." 2 days after the initial contact, The Unity space station became the chosen site for the first face-to-face meeting between humans and the collective. Captain Brown walked through the newly prepared conference room, checking every detail one final time. The circular table, a deliberate choice to show equality, gleamed under the soft lighting. "Security teams are in position, but unarmed as requested, sir," reported Officer Mark Wilson, looking uncomfortable with the last part. Like many others, he struggled with the idea of meeting potentially hostile aliens without weapons. The first sign of the alien delegation's arrival was a soft humming sound. A portion of the air shimmered, and 3 tall figures appeared. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, their bodies covered in what looked like flowing metal rather than cloth or armor. Their faces were angular, with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, all focused intently on the humans. The first speaker stepped forward, towering over Captain Brown. Its voice came through a translator device, carrying tones of both curiosity and wariness. "Your species continues to confuse us. You prepare a meeting room when you should be preparing battle stations." General Mills, who had arrived from Earth for this historic meeting, stepped forward with a smile. "First speaker, would you prefer if we were preparing for battle?" The alien leader's upper eyes blinked in sequence. It would make more sense. It would follow the natural order. In our history, every first contact has begun with combat to establish dominance. "Then perhaps it's time for history to change," the general replied, gesturing to the seats around the table. "Please, join us. We have prepared information about Earth's own history of conflict and how we learned to choose different paths." The aliens exchanged looks before carefully settling into the specially designed chairs. Captain Brown activated a holographic display in the center of the table, showing scenes from Earth's history. "Like you, we spent much of our history fighting," Brown explained. "Nations, peoples, beliefs. We found endless reasons for conflict. But we also learned something crucial. Our greatest achievements came not from victory in battle, but from former enemies working together." The first speaker watched intently as images of historical enemies becoming allies played out before them. "Your species chose to ignore the prospect of victory. This does not align with our understanding of intelligent behavior." "Not ignore," General Mills corrected gently. "Transcend. We discovered that working together often brought greater victories than we could achieve through combat. Look at this." He gestured, and the display showed the International Space Station, one of humanity's first great collaborative achievements in space. The alien delegation stirred, their metallic coverings rippling with what might have been surprise. "You built this through cooperation, without establishing dominance first. Because we cooperated, we achieved something greater than any single nation could have built alone," Brown explained. "Now imagine what our 2 species might achieve together." The first speaker stood suddenly, causing the human security teams to tense. But instead of any aggressive move, the alien leader walked to the station's viewport, staring out at Earth below. "In all our travels across thousands of light years, we have conquered or been resisted. Never has any species suggested there might be another way." The first speaker turned back to the humans. "But our conquest has brought us only temporary satisfaction, while your cooperation has taken you to the stars despite your lesser technology." General Mills joined the alien leader at the viewport. "Then perhaps we can teach each other. You can show us how you cross the vast distances between stars, and we can show you how to build bridges between cultures." The first speaker was quiet for a long moment. "There will be resistance among my people. Many will see this as weakness." "There was resistance among our people too," Brown added. "Still is, in fact. Change is never easy, but the hardest paths often lead to the most worthwhile destinations." The alien leader's 4 eyes focused on the human captain. "You speak wisdom that conflicts with everything we know. And yet, we cannot deny the evidence before us. Your world remains undefeated not through superior strength, but through an approach we never considered possible." As the meeting continued, both humans and aliens began to realize they were participating in something unprecedented, Not just first contact, but first cooperation. The path ahead would not be easy, but they had taken the first crucial step, choosing to walk it together rather than against each other. A week into the diplomatic talks, the Unity Station had become a hub of constant activity. Human diplomats and alien representatives moved through its corridors, each group still struggling to understand the other. In one of the observation lounges, first speakers stood watching Earth rotate below, its metallic covering reflecting the blue glow of the planet. Your world spends more resources on growing food than building weapons, the alien leader said to General Mills, who had joined them for their now regular evening discussions. This seems inefficient. We learned that well-fed people rarely want to fight, the general replied. It's harder to convince someone to go to war when they have a full stomach and a peaceful life to lose. The first speaker's 4 eyes blinked in their characteristic pattern of confusion. Our training teaches that comfort breeds weakness, yet your cities are filled with comfort, and still you reached the stars. Their conversation was interrupted by Lieutenant White rushing into the lounge, her face concerned. General, sir, we're picking up transmissions from the collective fleet. There's an argument happening. The first speaker's metallic covering rippled in what the humans had learned was embarrassment. My people are divided. The War Council demands proof that this peaceful approach has merit. They believe I have been compromised by your influence. On the main viewing screen, angry transmissions from the collective fleet flashed up, automatically translated. This is heresy against our ways. The humans must be using some form of mind control. We should cleanse this system and maintain our traditions. General Mills watched the first speaker carefully. Your people are afraid, not of us, but of change. Yes, the alien leader admitted. For 10,000 years, the collective has expanded through strength of arms. Our children are trained for combat before they learn to read. The idea that there might be another way, it threatens everything we believe. Down in the station's Cultural Exchange Center, Captain Brown was facing a similar challenge. A group of junior collective officers had requested to learn about Earth's history of conflict resolution. Their questions revealed just how deeply the warrior culture ran in their society. But if you do not defeat your enemies, how do you know you are superior? One of them asked, genuinely puzzled. We decided that being superior wasn't as important as being successful together, Brown explained. Look at these trade figures between former enemy nations. They generated more wealth through peaceful trade than they ever won through war. The young aliens huddled around the data displays, their traditional military attitudes warring with their natural curiosity. One of them, slightly smaller than the others, spoke up hesitantly. On my world, I was taught that other species were meant to be conquered or destroyed. But watching your people, you laugh with each other. You share meals. You tell stories. It feels right, another alien finished. Like finding a missing piece of a puzzle we didn't know was incomplete. Back in the observation lounge, first speaker had received a direct communication from the collective's high command. The alien leader's metallic covering had dulled, showing distress. They demand that I return for questioning. First speaker told General Mills. They believe I have failed in my duty by not conquering your world immediately. The general considered this for a moment. Then let's give them something they don't expect. Would your high command accept an invitation to Earth? First speaker's covering brightened slightly. You would invite our leaders. After knowing our intentions. Especially after knowing your intentions, Mills smiled. Sometimes the best way to change someone's mind is to show them something they never thought possible. As the day cycle on Unity Station came to an end, humans and aliens alike found themselves contemplating change. In the station's garden module, designed to provide fresh food and oxygen, a young collective officer was learning to plant seeds under the guidance of a human botanist. The simple act of creating life instead of destroying it had left the alien warrior in a state of quiet awe. Change was coming to both species, spreading like ripples in a pond. The question was no longer whether the collective would accept new ways, but how many of their old beliefs would survive the transformation that had begun with a simple choice to talk instead of fight. The main conference room of Unity Station had been transformed into a shared learning center. Holographic displays showed Earth's history on one wall and the collectives on another, creating a striking contrast between the two civilizations. Admiral Thompson, who had just arrived from Earth's Pacific Defense Command, stood before a group of fascinated alien officers. In 1945, after the most devastating war in our history, two of our greatest enemies became some of our strongest allies, the Admiral explained, pointing to images of Japan and Germany. Within one human lifetime, we went from dropping atomic bombs to building cars and computers together. The collective officers watched intently, their metallic coverings shifting with different emotions. One of them, a battle-scarred veteran, raised his hand. But the victory was already achieved. Why not simply rule over the defeated? Admiral Thompson smiled. Because ruling through fear only works until the fear fades. But ruling through cooperation can last forever. He switched the display to show modern Tokyo and Berlin. These cities were once burned to the ground. Now they stand as symbols of what enemies can build together. In another part of the station, first speaker was having a similar discussion with Earth's leading historians. The alien leader had requested to learn everything about human conflict resolution, from ancient peace treaties to modern international organizations. Your United Nations, first speaker mused, studying the structure of the organization. It seems impossibly chaotic. All voices are heard, even the smallest. Especially the smallest, replied Dr. Jones, a leading diplomatic historian. We learned that ignoring any voice often leads to conflict. When everyone has a seat at the table, everyone has a stake in keeping the peace. The alien leader's 4 eyes focused on a particular detail. But your nations still maintain armies. We do, Dr. Jones admitted, but their primary mission has evolved. Look at these records of military responses to natural disasters, peacekeeping missions, and joint exercises between former enemies. In the station's recreation area, something unprecedented was taking place. A group of human and collective children, the first allowed to visit the station, were playing together. The alien children, initially trained to see play as combat practice, were learning Earth games that focused on cooperation rather than competition. No, a human boy laughed, showing an alien child how to play catch. The goal isn't to defeat the ball. It's to help your friend catch it. The alien child's confusion slowly turned to delight as they grasped the concept. Their metallic covering brightened to a shine that the humans had learned meant joy. Nearby, first speaker watched the scene with the station's child development expert. We have never allowed our young to interact with other species, the alien leader admitted. We feared it would make them weak. But watching them now, children have an amazing ability to see past differences, the expert explained. They don't carry the weight of history or prejudice. They just see potential friends. Later that day, Captain Brown found himself in an unexpected discussion with a group of collective engineers. They had become fascinated by Earth's space program, particularly its history of international cooperation. Your International Space Station, one engineer said, studying the old blueprints. Each piece built by different nations, designed to fit together perfectly despite their differences. It's beautiful. It was our first step into space as a united species, Brown explained. We realized that space was too big, too challenging for any one nation to conquer alone. Now looking at your faster-than-light technology, we're thinking the same thing about the galaxy. As night fell on the station's artificial day cycle, first speaker met with General Mills for their daily summary. The alien leader seemed different, more contemplative than usual. We have spent centuries perfecting the art of war, first speaker said quietly. But watching your children play today, seeing your cities rise from the ashes of war, studying how you turn enemies into friends, I begin to wonder if perhaps we have been perfecting the wrong art. The general nodded. It's never too late to learn new ways. Tomorrow, The first group of collective diplomats will begin their training at Earth's Diplomatic Academy. And next week, your scientists will start working with ours on joint projects. A strange victory. First speaker mused, won not through combat, but through understanding. The emergency alarms on Unity Station blared to life at 3 in the morning, Earth time. General Mills rushed to the command center, where the main screen showed 5 new collective warships emerging from faster-than-light travel. These vessels were larger than the original fleet, their hulls marked with the red symbols of the collective's war council. First speaker's replacement orders just came through, Lieutenant White reported, her face pale. The War Council is taking direct control of the fleet. They're saying First Speaker has been compromised. The massive warships moved into attack positions, their weapons charging. On the command channel, a harsh voice boomed. This is War Commander Stoneheart of the Collective. The peace talks are over. Surrender your world or face immediate destruction. First speaker burst into the command center, the usually smooth metallic covering rippling with agitation. They cannot do this. The High Command has not approved this action. Down on Earth, protests erupted outside military bases. Crowds gathered, holding signs that read "Peace, not war," and "Friendship over fear." News channels showed both humans who demanded immediate military action and those who insisted on maintaining diplomatic relations. Captain Brown's voice crackled over the command channel. "Sir, our ships are in position, but we're heavily outgunned. Even with the defensive upgrades we've learned about from the collective, we wouldn't last 10 minutes. General Mills watched the tactical display, his mind racing. The War Council ships had positioned themselves in a perfect attack formation, waiting for Earth's response. But something about their positioning caught his attention. First speaker, he said slowly, these new ships, they're arranged in traditional collective battle formation, aren't they? The alien leader's eyes brightened with understanding. Yes, yes, they follow the old ways exactly, which means they expect us to either attack or surrender, Mills finished. So let's do neither. He opened a channel to all Earth's defense forces. All ships, power down weapons but maintain shields. Form the friendship circle we practiced with First Speaker's fleet. The Earth ships began to move, taking positions that the collective had never seen in combat. Instead of facing the alien warships, they formed a circle, weapons powered down, facing outward as if to protect something. War Commander Stoneheart's voice came through again, this time with a note of confusion. What trickery is this? What combat formation is this? This is not a combat formation, General Mills replied calmly. This is the formation of trust we developed with our collective friends. We stand together, not against each other. In the space around them, First Speaker's original fleet ships began to move. One by one, they broke from their defensive positions and joined the Earth ships in their circle, their weapons also powered down. What are you doing? Stoneheart demanded. This is treason. No, First Speaker's voice rang out on all channels. This is evolution. Look at your tactical displays. In their defensive formation, Earth's ships would have lasted minutes against us. But by choosing trust over fear, they have gained allies that make them stronger than any weapons. The War Council ships held their positions, their weapons still hot. But doubt had been sown. On their command channels, which the humans could now access thanks to their cooperation with First Speaker's fleet, confused discussions broke out. They choose to protect instead of attack. Their formation has no weaknesses because it has no front or back. They stand with our own ships now. Hours passed in tense silence. On Earth, millions watched through their screens as the situation hung in balance. In space, humans and friendly collective crew members stood together at their posts, waiting. Finally, War Commander Stoneheart's voice returned, sounding older and tired. In 10,000 years of warfare, I have never. There was a long pause. First Speaker, explain to me how this makes us stronger. First Speaker stepped forward, hope shining in all 4 eyes. Let me show you, War Commander. Let me show you how turning away from battle can be the greatest victory of all. The tension in Unity Station's command center began to ease as the War Council ships powered down their weapons. General Mills looked at the tactical display, where two civilization ships now floated together in a formation that represented something entirely new in the galaxy's history. Sometimes, he said quietly, the best way to win a fight is to refuse to have one at all. The Great Hall of the Collective's flagship had never seen anything like this before. Where weapon displays once hung, cultural exchange exhibits now lined the walls. Young Collective officers moved through the space, their metallic coverings shimmering with excitement as they studied images and artifacts from Earth. War Commander Stoneheart stood beside General Mills, watching as a group of Collective students practiced Earth-style debate techniques. Instead of solving disagreements through ritual combat, they were learning to use words and logic. A month ago, I would have called this sacrilege, the War Commander admitted, his harsh voice softer than usual. Now I watch our young ones embrace new ideas, and I wonder how much we lost by choosing combat over conversation. In another corner of the hall, human scientists worked alongside Collective engineers, combining Earth's innovative thinking with advanced alien technology. Their first joint project was not a weapon, but a new type of medical scanner that could help both species. The energy field modifications you suggested are brilliant, a Collective engineer told his human partner. We always focused our technology on destruction. Using it to heal, it feels right. First speaker moved through the hall, stopping to observe each group. The alien leader's metallic covering now displayed a mix of patterns learned from human art, breaking centuries of tradition that required only military symbols. Our education centers report overwhelming demand for Earth studies, first speaker told General Mills. The younger generation especially. They want to learn everything about human culture, art, music, even your sports. On one of the view screens, a live feed showed something even more remarkable. On a Collective colony world, a group of alien children had organized their first peaceful protest. They carried signs in both human and Collective script that read "Books, not battles," and "Peace is strength." The War Commander's 4 eyes widened at the sight. They're not even using their combat training to maintain order. They're just talking, sharing ideas, like humans do. It's spreading faster than we expected. First speaker added, even some of our oldest colonies are requesting human cultural advisors. They want to learn about Earth's path from war to peace. In the station's new Joint Command Center, Captain Brown worked with Collective officers to establish the first mixed species patrol teams. The patrols would focus not on finding enemies, but on helping ships in distress and protecting trade routes. Your ships are faster. Our sensors are better at detecting distress calls, Brown explained to his alien counterpart. Together, we can help more people than either of us could alone. The biggest change was happening in the Collective's military academy. The once rigid training facility now included courses on diplomacy, cultural understanding, and peaceful conflict resolution. Young cadets who once would have learned only about conquest now studied Earth's history of turning enemies into friends. A senior Collective instructor approached General Mills, his metallic covering showing the traditional patterns of a warrior, but now edged with the blue of Earth's oceans. We had a saying, victory comes through superior force. Now our students question this. They ask about superior understanding instead. Later that evening, in a quiet moment, First Speaker and War Commander Stoneheart stood together watching Earth through a viewport. The blue planet spun peacefully below them, unaware of how it had changed an ancient warrior civilization. Do you know what surprised me most? Stoneheart said quietly. Not that humans chose peace over war, but that by doing so, they became stronger than we ever were through combat. First Speaker nodded. They showed us that true strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the courage to extend friendship to those who might be enemies. In the background, human and Collective music played together, a new form of art that mixed Earth's melodies with the rhythmic harmonics of alien sound patterns. Young officers from both species were teaching each other their traditional dances, creating new forms that belonged to neither culture but somehow represented both. "We thought we came to conquer Earth," the war commander mused. "Instead, their ideas conquered us. And somehow, in losing our old ways, we've gained something greater." First speaker touched the viewport gently. "Not conquered, transformed. They showed us a different kind of victory, one that everyone can share in." 1 year after the first contact, the Great Chamber of the United Nations buzzed with historic energy. Delegates from Earth sat side by side with representatives from the collective, their differences in appearance now a symbol of unity rather than division. Above them, a new flag hung beside Earth's UN banner, a design that merged human and collective symbols into a pattern of peaceful cooperation. General Mills stood at the podium, looking out over the assembled crowd. First speaker stood beside him, their metallic covering now permanently decorated with a blend of both cultures' artistic styles. Together, they prepared to announce the greatest joint venture in either species' history. "Today," Mills began, his voice carrying across the silent chamber, "we launched the United Stars Initiative. Not a human program, not a collective program, but the first truly joint effort to explore our galaxy together." The main screen lit up with images of a new type of ship. Its design combined the best of both civilizations: collective faster-than-light technology with human environmental systems, alien defense shields with Earth's advanced medical facilities. "The U.S. Hope," first speaker announced, "will be the first of her kind. A ship crewed equally by humans and collective members, dedicated not to war or conquest, but to exploration and aid." In orbit, Captain Brown walked through the corridors of this new vessel. Every detail showed the combination of two cultures that had found strength in their differences. Human and collective crew members worked side by side, their movements now comfortable and coordinated after months of joint training. Engineering reports all systems ready, reported his new second-in-command, a young collective officer whose metallic covering rippled with excitement. "The hybrid drive is performing better than either of our previous designs." War Commander Stoneheart, now serving as the head of the new Joint Defense Council, watched from Unity Station as final preparations were made. The old warrior had become one of the strongest supporters of the new partnership, often saying that his greatest victory came not from fighting, but from learning to work with former potential enemies. 6 more colony worlds have requested to join the initiative, he told Admiral Thompson, who now served as his human counterpart. "They see what we've built together and want to be part of it." Down on Earth, the changes were equally profound. Collective healing technology combined with human medical knowledge had led to breakthroughs in treating diseases. Their joint environmental projects had begun to reverse climate change. The first human collective university had opened its doors, with students from both species studying everything from art to xenobiology. In the new Joint Space Academy, a human instructor worked with a group of mixed-species cadets. On the wall behind them, a new motto had replaced the old collective warrior creed: "Together we explore, together we grow, together we protect." First speaker moved to the UN podium as General Mills stepped back. "1 year ago, we came to this world as conquerors. We thought we knew strength. We thought we knew victory." The alien leader paused, all 4 eyes scanning the chamber. "Instead, you taught us that the greatest power lies not in weapons or conquest, but in the courage to reach out to those who are different." The chamber erupted in applause as the main screen showed live feeds from around both Earth and collective worlds. Everywhere, the two species worked, studied, and celebrated together. Children from both civilizations played in new parks designed for both species. Scientists collaborated in joint laboratories. Artists created new forms of expression that belonged to neither culture but celebrated both. "The U.S. Hope launches tomorrow," General Mills announced as the applause died down. "Her mission is to explore the galaxy not with weapons, but with open hands and open minds. She carries our shared dream. that what we have built together might show other civilizations a better way. As the sun set on this historic day, First Speaker and General Mills stood in the UN garden. Above them, the first stars were becoming visible in the darkening sky. "Do you think other species will understand what we've achieved?" First Speaker asked. Mills smiled, watching a group of human and collective children chasing each other through the garden paths, their laughter mixing in the evening air. "They'll understand when they see what we've become, not two species living in peace, but one community building a future together." In space, the U.S. Hope floated serenely in her dock, her hull gleaming with the symbols of both civilizations. Tomorrow she would launch, carrying the dreams of two peoples who had learned that the greatest victories come not from conquering others, but from learning to live and grow together.